Hello and welcome to this week's New York State dedicated video for Wednesday, October 19th, 2022. In this video, we will look at the total number of cases in the last 24 hours, the positivity rate, hospitalization level, hospital admissions, and we will look at the reinfections as the reinfections are updated on Wednesdays. In the last 24 hours, New York State reported 4,193 new cases. The positivity rate was 6.4%. And this week's reinfections, which just came in today, is 11,008 cases. So the total number of cases today is 11,008 when you include reinfections. Today, 22 deaths were added. Yesterday, 28th. October 17th, 99. October 14th, 6. October 13th, 13 deaths were added. So deaths are somewhat starting to increase, and that is to be expected as hospitalizations are continuing to rise in New York State. As you can see, the overall trend is for hospitalizations to rise week over week, and currently 2,869 people are in the hospital on the state dashboard. The HHS is actually well over 3,000, almost over 3,100 now. So that's not good. Taking a look at the statewide admissions, hospital admissions today were 467 people were admitted in the last 24 hours. All right, going to our first region, the capital region. And the capital region in the last 24 hours reported 251 people positive, 9.8% positivity. The 7-day rolling average is 10%. Taking a look at the capital region's hospital admissions. Hospital admissions in the capital region, 22 people were admitted in the last 24 hours. The hospitalizations in the capital region are also trending up. They're up to 183 with 9 people in the ICU. And we forgot to do the statewide ICU. Let's go back and do that, shall we? The ICUs on the statewide level are somewhat rising. It is now up to 293 people in the ICU. Alrighty, continuing on here. Our next region is the Central Region. Central New York. Taking a look at today's cases for Central New York. 159 people tested positive. The positivity rate is 7.6%, with the rolling average, 7-day average, at 8.3%. Central Region hospitalizations also continue to rise and are now up to 131 people hospitalized, 21 people in the ICU. Newly reported admissions for hospitalizations are at 24 for the last 24 hours. All right, our next region is going to be the Finger Lakes region. And let's take a look at Finger Lakes region cases, shall we? 179 people tested positive, 6.5% positivity. The 7-day rolling average positivity is at 7.5%. Their cases relatively overall are flat in this region. How about the hospital admissions? Hospital admissions are somewhat rising. 40 people have been admitted to the hospital in the last 24 hours, and here's hospitalizations. Hospitalizations in this region definitely rising over the last 7 days, with 345 people in the hospital and 29 people in the ICU. All right, moving on to our next region, which will be Long Island. How about Long Island cases? Long Island cases are ever so slightly starting to rise. 715 people tested positive over the last 24 hours. The positivity for the last 24 hours is 6%. The 7-day rolling average is 6.3%. Taking a look at Long Island hospitalizations. Long Island hospitalizations as of this week are starting to rise by a good amount too. 522 people in the hospital, 55 people in the ICU. End of last week, only 457 people were in the hospital. However, the ICUs in Long Island are flat. Alrighty, taking a look at hospital admissions in Long Island. And you will see hospital admissions in Long Island are trending up. Look at this chart. Really starting to trend up. 92 hospital admissions over the last 24 hours. The next region that we're going to look at is the MidHudson region. And the MidHudson region for this week, or for today for cases, ever so slightly starting to rise on the chart. 525 people tested positive in the last 24 hours, 6.2% positivity rate for the last 24 hours. 7-day rolling average is at 6.8%. And taking a look at the MidHudson Region hospital admissions, they are up to 48 in the last 24 hours. Current hospitalizations and ICUs in the MidHudson region are relatively flat. They're not rising all that much. And today they are at 268 people hospitalized, 20 people in the ICU. All right, moving on to the Mohawk Valley region of New York State. This week, the Mohawk Valley region is continuing to have a downward trend in the number of people testing positive. 108 people tested positive in the last 24 hours, 8.3% positivity. 7-day rolling average is 10% positivity rate. So the positivity rate on a 7-day average in this region is relatively higher than what we've seen in the other regions. And taking a look at the Mohawk Valley's hospitalizations, the hospitalizations are up in this region. 86 people are hospitalized. And this, if you look at the long-term trend, it's going up. It is slightly down from last week, but I do want to point something out here. Yesterday's ICUs were 5, today's ICUs were 9, ever so slightly higher. Taking a look at the hospital admissions in the Mohawk Valley, and you can see here, just 11 people admitted in the last 24 hours. Moving on to the big one, New York City. And taking a look at New York City's cases, let's see what's going on with New York City's cases. New York City's cases, 1,735 people tested positive in the last 24 hours, 5.6% positivity rate, 5.6% 7-day positivity rate, so they are relatively matching each other. New York City's admissions, they are ever so slightly starting to go up. 152 people admitted over the last 24 hours, and let's take a look at the cases in ICUs. Cases in ICUs are starting to go up. 994 people hospitalized, 112 people in the ICU, so the 1,000 mark for hospitalizations in New York City is about to be passed pretty soon. Moving on to our next region, the North Country, the farthest most northern region in New York State. And in the North Country, cases are dropping ever so slightly. 77 people tested positive in the last 24 hours, 8% positivity. 10-day average is also 10% in this region. Taking a look at hospitalizations in this region, hospitalizations have been up. And week over week, they're really up. 89 people in the hospital today. Last week, around this time, there were 73 people in the hospital. Taking a look at the hospital admissions for the last 24 hours. Hospital admissions, 19 people admitted in the last 24 hours, and we forgot to do the ICUs. ICUs are at 10 people in the ICU, which is higher than last week's. And they ended last week with just 4 people in the ICU. So that is increasing as well. All right, now we go to the southernmost region of New York State, and that would be the Southern Tier region. The Southern Tier region of New York State, for cases in the last 24 hours, has 148 people tested positive, 7% positivity, 7-day rolling average of 8.6%. And taking a look at the cases in the Southern Tier region, 96 people hospitalized, 8 people in the ICU. Taking a look at hospital admissions. Hospital admissions are at 21. All right, finally, last but not least, Western New York State. Western New York State today reports 296 people tested positive in the last 24 hours. The positivity rate is 9.6%. The 7-day rolling average is 9.8%. And finally, their hospital admissions are rising, and they've been rising for quite some time. 38 people admitted to the hospital. Current hospitalizations and ICU admissions. This has been rising since the summer months. 155 people admitted in the hospital, not admitted, but in the hospital, and 20 people in the ICU. And if you look, it's been rising ever so slightly each week, all the way back to June. So that's relatively interesting. And they have had the longest period of a rise out of all the regions. All right, one last thing we want to look at. The positivity rate on Walgreens, 34.1% positive. Testing is relatively down a little bit week over week, but the week-over-week positivity difference is up 1.6%. So the takeaway here is New York State is rising for hospitalization still. We're not quite seeing the rise in cases yet. And we may start seeing that soon in the coming weeks because Walgreens positivity is up, and that is a indicator that New York State is generally going to start rising soon for cases, and it only makes sense. The hospitalizations are rising in New York State. Alright, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more videos like this, please hit the like and subscribe button down below. And remember, stay safe everyone and continue to wear your mask.